What if I tell you if you're playing with a head heavy racket, you can switch to a headlight racket and still play quite well, almost as well as you played with a head heavy racket. Or if you're playing with an even balanced racket and you're switching to a head heavy racket, you can still play well like you did with your even balanced racket. How do you do that? It's very important you take few factors into consideration, and I'm going to discuss more about them in this video. You don't want to miss the last one because that is the most important one. Welcome everyone. In this video, we're going to discuss about what makes a good badminton racket buying decision. There are few factors and I'm going to discuss in this video. We all had this scenario where we've been playing with the racket, we got used to it, we're playing at a very good level. Now you want to upgrade, you want to move on to the next level. You get a new racket, you're excited about it, but it doesn't work out, it doesn't suit your game, you're not playing well, and you regret your buying decision. This is because you don't take in few factors before making that buying decision. So in this video, I'm going to help you out. Make sure that you buy the right racket and your next upgrade is going to be very useful. I'm going to talk about 5 factors. So the first one to consider and be aware of is the frame design and frame type. There are wide body frames, there are box type frames, and even in box types, there are really thin frames. There are compact frames where the sweet spot is smaller, regular size frames. These frames do have distinct characteristics, like the compact frame has a bit more concentrated sweet spot, it is smaller, generates more power generally, whereas the regular size frame is more forgiving, larger sweet spot, more comfortable for more players. So it is important to understand your exact frame type before choosing your next racket. It is very difficult to go directly from a regular size frame to a compact frame, and that will take a lot of time to get used to. So that if you get this wrong, it's going to be very difficult to get used to your new racket and enjoy it. So make sure when you upgrade, the size of the head remains almost same. The next is the grip size. If you are playing with a G4 grip and you like it, do make sure your new racket is also a G4 grip. If you're playing with a G6 grip and your new racket is a G4 grip, it's going to take a lot of time adjusting to it. And vice versa, if you're playing with a G4 grip and your new racket is a G6 grip, it's going to be the same problem. So if you are comfortable with the grip size, make sure your new racket also has the same grip size. Next is the overall weight of the racket. If you're playing with above 85 grams racket and you switch to a racket that is less than 75 grams, it's going to be a huge difference in terms of how quick you are or slow you are. So make sure the difference is less than 5 grams. So if you're playing with the 80 grams racket and you're upgrading, make sure it's either 75 grams or 85 grams. Don't go beyond plus or minus 5 grams because that overall difference does make a huge impact in your playing style. Overall, how much fatigue you get, how much effort you have to put into a swing, all that matters. So make sure the difference is not more than 5 grams. 5 grams is something that you can work with, you can get used to it, and you can perform well with your new racket. But if the overall weight is more than 10 grams, it's going to be difficult getting used to that new racket. It might sound counterintuitive because at the start of the video I said if you're playing with a headlight racket, you can still play well with a head heavy racket, because that important factor I'm coming to in a couple of minutes. The next important factor for you to consider is the balance point. Some rackets like the Nano Fusion Speed 722 have very low balance point, 285, which is a headlight balance. The Finapi 232 next gen has around 295, which is almost an even balance to slightly head heavy. I would say this is an even balance racket. Whereas the Nitrix 10 is over 300, 305 mm, it's a head heavy balance racket. So the overall weight and the balance point of the racket is something that is very important. So if you're coming from an 80 grams racket, which is at 280 mm or 85 mm balance point, and then you go to 80 grams racket with a balance point of 310 mm, it's going to be very heavy. The difference is way too much. Again, even with the balance point, keep it under 5 mm. If it's 295, you can go to 290, you can go to 300. Going to 305 is going to be a problem. It's going to take a lot more time for you to get used to it, and you might not be patient enough to give that time to get used to it. So make sure you do not go beyond 5 mm when it comes to having a new racket that is difference in your balance point. So 295 mm, you can go to 290 or 300. Please do not go to 300 in balance point or 285 in balance point. Again, it will be too headlight. It will take you a lot of time to get used to that new racket. Finally, I'm coming to the most important factor, which is the shaft flexibility. How flexible is this shaft that you're playing with? If it's a very flexible shaft, if you pick up a racket that is even medium flex, you're not going to play well with it. If you're coming from a flexible shaft to a very stiff shaft, it's going to be a nightmare. The same applies to the opposite direction. If you're coming from a stiff shaft, go to a flexible shaft. If you get the weight right, if you're playing with a 4U head heavy racket, 305 balance point, if you come with a stiff shaft and you go to a flexible shaft, you will not like that racket. Same way, flexible shaft to stiff shaft, you will not like that racket. Now, I did say you can have a bit of a tolerance in the weight. If you are a 5U racket user, you can go to 4U, it's not going to be a problem. If you're an even balance racket user, you can go to a head heavy racket, it's not going to be a problem. But if you change too many factors, especially the last factor, if you are coming from a medium flex shaft, if you go to a flexible shaft, it's not going to help. If you're coming from a medium flex shaft, you go to a stiff shaft, it's not going to help. When it comes to shaft flexibility, there is no tolerance level. So this is the most important factor. If you're playing with Finapi 232, just somewhat an even balance to head heavy racket, then you move to, let's say you go to 100 Flareon, it's close to even balance, slightly head heavy. You will not find too much of a difference or adjusting to this new racket. Or even if you go to the Nitrix 10, you will not find that too difficult because you're coming from an even balance 295 to 300 it's not a problem. Where the problem comes is the difference in the shaft flexibility. I have played with rackets that weigh 75 grams in and around that weight, 80 grams, many rackets. I've tested more than 100 rackets in this YouTube channel, and based on experience, I can say I don't enjoy all the lightweight rackets. There are rackets which are lightweight, the shaft flexibility will not suit me, and I'm not able to play well with it. Long time viewers of the channel know that I like lightweight rackets. The 722 is one of my favorite rackets. But I do play well with the Galant Tour. It's because the head weight and the shaft flexibility is something that I like. It is very similar in terms of shaft flexibility to the 722. This is medium flex. This is also medium flex to slightly stiff. It's not overly stiff. When you consider the weight of this racket, the head weight, the shaft is actually pretty stiff because it has so much weight in the head. Even a stiff shaft, it becomes a medium stiff shaft. This is a very flexible shaft, but since there is not much weight in the head, what you're pushing is the weight of the racket head. But without much weight in the head, it actually feels medium stiff. This one is a stiff shaft, but with the weight in the head, it actually feels medium stiff. The same applies to the Finapi 232 Next Gen. It is even balanced, but the shaft flexibility is mid flex. So all these three rackets suit me. I can go from this racket to this racket. I can still play well, meaning within a couple of days I can play well. But if I go from the Galant to the Nitrix Thunder, I'm not going to play well. Even though the Nitrix Thunder is overall lighter than the Galant Tour, the shaft is stiffer. I'm not going to be able to bend it all that well. It's going to take a lot more time for me to get used to this type of shaft. So the most important factor for you to get success in your new racket is to make sure that your current racket and your new racket first matches the shaft flexibility. If you're playing with a flexible shaft, your new racket has to be flexible. If you're playing with a stiffer shaft, the new racket has to be stiffer. Same with medium flex. So make sure you get the shaft flexibility right first. Then you can have tolerances. If you're playing with the even balance, you can try head heavy racket, which is 5 more in balance point, 295 to 300. Or you want to try a headlight balance, you can go from 295 to 290. It's not going to be a problem. But you cannot go from a flexible shaft to a stiff shaft. You cannot go from a stiff shaft to a flexible shaft. That is going to be a nightmare. It's going to take a long time for you to get used to it, and you might never get used to it. That is why I see many people who spend a lot of money buy the pro rackets and they regret that buying decision. So unless you enjoy playing the stiff shaft, you like a stiff shaft, you are strong enough to flex the stiff shaft, do not buy rackets with stiff shaft. Do not upgrade to rackets with a stiff shaft. Stick to the flexibility of your current racket to your new racket. I hope this video was informative. If it was, please do consider hitting the like button and also subscribe for more such content. If you have any questions on what was shared in this video, please leave a comment below. I'll get to it as soon as possible. If you want to help out someone that you know in to make the right buying decision, do share this video with them. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you again in my next video.